Thanks for tuning in to another video here with the Lotz Real Estate Group. Let's dive into how property taxes are shaping the full real estate landscape. And honestly, this might be one of the biggest real estate stories here in Michigan for probably the next 2 years. If you've been hearing about Proposal A, taxable value, the pop-up tax, the bills moving through Lansing, or you're just wondering why your tax bill is double than what your neighbor's is for half of the value, this video is for you. Because this isn't some abstract Lansing policy debate. This is happening to your house today. Your tax bill, your next move. First off, what is the pop-up tax? Everyone in Lansing is suddenly fighting about, very recently, past 1 to 2 weeks. Most people hear the phrase and assume it's some new thing. It's not. It's been baked into Michigan property tax since 1994. Here's the simple version. In Michigan, your home has two values. One is assessed value, basically what the assessor says your home is worth. The other is taxable value, which is what your taxes are actually based on. Under Proposal A, passed by Michigan voters back in 1994, your taxable value can only go up by the rate of inflation, or 5%, whichever is lower. For 2026, the cap is 2.7. In 2025, it was 3.1. In 2023 and 2024, it was the full 5%. So if you've owned your home in Hartland or Pinckney for 15 years, your taxable value is way below what the house is actually worth in the open market. You've been protected. But here's the catch. The second that home sells, the cap mysteriously goes away, and the new owner's taxable value pops up to match the assessed value, which is essentially half the market value of the house. What's the pop-up tax? Same house, same street, same school district, brand new property tax bill. This is the part that drives buyers crazy here in Livingston County. You move into a beautiful neighborhood off Old US 23 or near Lake Chemung, you're excited, you're happy, you can't be more enthusiastic about the home, and then year 2 hits, the tax bill shows up. It's hundreds of dollars a month higher than what the previous owner was paying. Sometimes, maybe even more, depending on how long they've been there. We tend to lead great conversations about affordability with the expectation of what taxes are going to be, and great agents should. Meanwhile, your neighbor who bought the same floor plan in 2009 is paying what feels like half. They're not getting away with anything. They're protected by Proposal A. You're not, because you just bought. In a market like ours, where home prices in Brighton, Hartland, Howell have climbed dramatically over the last decade, the gap has gotten huge. And it's quietly become one of the biggest barriers of buying here in Livingston County. Now here's what's getting interesting. In May, the Michigan House rushed through a package of bills aimed at ending the pop-up tax. The plan would ultimately eliminate the uncapping mechanism starting in 2027. And this is a big one. They paired it with a resolution to put the change directly into the Michigan Constitution, meaning voters would finally have the final say. If it survives the Senate and makes the ballot, this becomes one of the biggest property tax votes in Michigan since Proposal A itself in 1994. Think about that for a second. The same law that's protected longtime owners for over 30 years could get fundamentally Let's talk about you first if you're trying to buy here. This is the side of the story people absolutely miss. Prices have been hovering in the high 300s. Brighton runs a little bit higher. Hartland and parts of Howell aren't far behind. And buyers are obviously already very stretched to actually afford those houses. Mortgage rates have been sitting in the high 5s to low 6s for most of this year. Inventory is tight, and on top of all of that, the pop-up tax hits year 2. So what happens if Lansing actually kills the uncapping? Number one, your monthly payment on day 1 becomes a lot more predictable. You'd inherit something much closer to the seller's taxable value. No more shock letter in the mailbox the next February. Number 2, more buyers can actually qualify for these houses because lenders look at taxes when they calculate what you can afford. Lower taxes equals more buying power. Number 3, longtime homeowners are suddenly more likely to sell. Nobody is talking about, we have a supply and demand. We have a low inventory issue. More buyers want to be in these communities, but sellers aren't selling because of these restrictions. Now let's talk about you if you already own. especially if you've been in your home in Genoa, Hamburg, Tyrone, Fowlerville for a decent amount of time. Right now, you got the golden handcuff. You are locked into your taxable value. If you sell and buy something else, your new home uncaps. Your taxes could double overnight. That's why so many empty nesters here in Livingston County stay put even when the house is too big or they can't maintain it, because moving means a tax shock. If the pop-up tax goes away, that handcuff loosens. Suddenly downsizing makes more sense. Suddenly moving closer to the grandkids in Ann Arbor or Plymouth makes more sense. Suddenly that lake house dream on Whitmore Lake or the chain of lakes feels more possible. And here's where it gets interesting. If this happens across Michigan all at once, you could see a wave of longtime owners finally listing, which means more inventory, more opportunities, which is something we have not had in this county for years. Okay, so what if you're a seller right now? Maybe you're sitting on a great house off of M59 or near downtown Brighton, and you've been waiting for the right moment. Here's the honest read. In the short term, like 2026 into early 2027, buyers might actually slow down a little bit to wait for what the results are going to be, to see if the uncapping rules change before they buy. Because if I'm a buyer and I think I might pay thousands less in property taxes by buying in 2027 instead of 2026, I might pause. But, and this is important, if the change happens, you'll have a much bigger pool of motivated buyers on the other side, and you could see a real surge in activity. So timing in this market got more interesting overnight. Now let's talk about the real risk though, because every story has another side. The pop-up tax isn't just a buyer headache, it's a major revenue resource for schools, the police, for roads, for libraries, and for your local township and city services. The legislation estimates I've seen project a revenue loss in the range of $200 to $50 million statewide in year one alone. And it compounds, because every sale after that locks in lower number permanently. So here's the question nobody is answering just yet. If the money disappears, where does it come from? Number one, it could come from a millage request. Local schools and townships could go to the ballot more, often asking voters to fill the gap, which they're doing now. Brighton area schools, Howell Public Schools, Hartland Consolidated, Pinckney, Fowlerville, they rely on this revenue. Number two, it could come from higher state equalized value process, meaning assessors get more aggressive on the front end. Number three, some services could get cut. And in a community like Livingston County where people moved here specifically for good schools, safe neighborhoods, and quiet roads, that's not a small thing. And honestly, that's where this gets complicated, because the same homeowners who love a lower tax bill on their next home and love the schools and services they pay for. Here's the part I haven't seen anyone really cover yet. The pop-up tax isn't just about prices and policy. It's about who lives here. For years, Livingston County has been a magnet for families relocating from Oakland County, Wayne County, and even out of state. For the schools, the lakes, the small town feel, and the easy access to 96, 23, and M59. But that pop-up tax has quietly priced out a chunk of buyers, young families, first-time home buyers in their 30s. Move-up buyers from places like Brighton townhomes into single-family in Hartland. If that barrier drops, you could see a new wave of buyers we haven't seen in years. Young demographics, more families, more demand for the kind of homes that have been sitting just slightly out of reach. That changes everything from school enrollment to retail growth on Grand River. So now let's talk about the real question. What do you actually do with all of this? Number one, if you're a buyer this year, don't panic. Don't sit on the sidelines. Don't stop the process waiting for a maybe. This bill still has to pass the Senate, get to the governor, and very likely go to a vote for the people. That takes time. That's a process. And the right house in the right neighborhood doesn't wait around for legislation. Number two, if you're a seller, start the conversation now, because positioning your home before a market shift is always smarter than reacting after one. Because we don't know if this creates a wave of inventory, therefore shifting to a buyer market. Number three, if you already own, review your 2026 assessment notice. Look at your taxable value, look at your state equalized value, understand the gap between the two, because the gap is your protection. And it's also exactly what pop-up tax if you ever sold. Knowing those numbers tells you what your actual options are. But overall, I think this is definitely one of those stories most people in Livingston County are massively underestimating. Because this isn't just a tax policy story, it's who can afford to live here story. It's a will long-term sellers finally sell story. It's what happens to our school story. All of those threads run right through Brighton, Howell, Hartland, Pinckney, Fowlerville, and every township in between. Will Lansing actually pull this off? I don't know. But the conversation alone is already changing how buyers and sellers are thinking about timing. So don't wait for the headlines to tell you what's happening to your home. Pay attention now. So I want to hear from you. Do you think ending Michigan's pop-up tax would be good for Livingston County? Or do you think it just shifts the bill onto schools, roads, and services? Are you a longtime owner who feels locked in by the uncapping rules, or are you a recent buyer who got hit with a surprise tax just in year 2? If you're thinking about buying, selling here in Brighton, Howell, Hartland this year, is any of this changing your plans? And if you want more videos breaking down Livingston County real estate, where home values are headed, and how Lansing, Detroit are quietly reshaping our communities, subscribe and follow along. This is the Lotz Real Estate Group. We'll see you in the next one.